On Friday, we carried the story, Tana, of Julian Robinson and the fact of his dual British Jamaican citizenship. Julian Robinson, everybody accepts, an outstanding parliamentarian. He's a model MP, a genuine man, a man who you wouldn't, if someone tells you something ill about Julian Robinson, you'll do several double takes, and you'd be hard pressed to believe anything like that. A thoroughly good guy we can accept. It's not a false position. It's not because of PR that he's perceived this way. It's because of how he is and who he is, how he carries himself. Julian Robinson is one of those persons who, one of those politicians, is not in it for personal gain. And you would never harbor any thought that Julian Robinson exists in politics to corrupt any process or anything like that. A thoroughly good guy, roundabout, right around. The fact, though, of him sitting as a dual British national and not saying it up front, not being upfront about it, is genuinely cause for concern because of how Julian Robinson has practiced his politics over time. Very honest man, as I've said. And Julian Robinson has a history of sharing details about his personal situation that are really, really private. I'll get to that in a minute. Just to say that the issues surrounding Mark Golding and the length of time, several weeks we've been talking about this dual citizenship issue involving Mr. Golding. Julian Robinson didn't come out and declare that I too am a dual British national, as you would expect from an honest man like himself. And they took this news report to let the country know that Mr. Robinson is indeed a dual British Jamaican national. Now, people will say, Tana, that there's nothing illegal about being a dual British Jamaican national. But I'm going to show something that Julian Robinson himself said about the law and principle that will support those who say, unlawful or not, he ought to, in keeping with the form that he demonstrated on other issues in the past, have said to Jamaica, so and so and so and so, and let the chips fall in place from there. Here we go. June 2016, people inside the PNP briefed their media colleagues that Julian Robinson was about to buy a house for $90 million. This was in the time when Andrew Holness was taking fire from the PNP for the house that he was at the time building in Beverly Hills. And the word from the PNP was that Julian's situation was compromising their ability to really get their claws into Holness for his $50-odd million, according to Holness at the time. The Beverly Hills house was being built at a cost of $50-odd million. But they were saying that, but you see, if Julian never have this thing where he's buying a house in Jacksonville for $90 million, we would be able to go fully into questioning Holness about where he got his money from to build his house. But Julian's situation is preventing us from doing that because we can't be criticizing Holness and then Julian is in this situation and Julian is not in a position to afford to buy a house for $90 million. That came from inside the PNP. To that, the Star in June 2016 called Julian Robinson to ask him about this thing about his purchase of a Jacks Hill house for $90 million. Julian Robinson said, look, yes, I am buying a house in Jacks Hill. No, it is not supported by a mortgage. Yes, the briefing against me is fueled by bad mind. That's what he said. It's a quote, bad mind. And he says, no, the price of the house is not 90 million, but it is more than 70 million. Good. He said, look, I haven't bought a house. I am in the process. I have made a deposit on it. I don't think I'm obligated to disclose the price tag. It is not what those persons are claiming it to be, but as I say, all of my sources of income are easily and can be clearly identified. He said, in his 4 years as State Minister, he has consistently made his integrity declarations to the Integrity Commission as required by law. He said that because I choose to live a private life and drive a Toyota RAV4, people decide that I can't afford the deposit. Now here's what he told the Star also in that interview. He told them that he holds a Master of Business Administration from the University of Illinois and that he worked in London and later in the private sector in Jamaica for 20 years before entering representational politics in 2011. He said, quote, I worked, saved and invested for over 20 years, plus my wife is the CEO of First Global Bank, and we got support from my family. He said those persons in the PNP should have approached him with their queries about his assets. He says that this notion that because I've only been involved in politics for 4 years, because at the time, 2016, he had only been there for about 4 or 5 years because he came in 2011. So this notion that I've been only involved in politics for 4 years means that I don't and my family don't have the capacity to buy this house is nonsense. That's what he told the Star right about June 4, 2016. 2 days later, he did one better, Julian Robinson did. He went to the Gleaner and he said, look, here are copies of my filings to the Integrity Commission, setting out my income and assets. And he told the Sunday Gleaner, Edmund Campbell wrote that story, that I have decided to take this bold move to silence innuendos and aspersions about my capacity to purchase this multi-million-dollar property in Jacksonville, Upper St. Andrew. Robinson showed the Gleaner copies of reports he submitted to the Integrity Commission. He pointed out that he holds joint assets and investments with his father and also is the joint owner of properties with his father and siblings. Based on his submissions to the Integrity Commission in 2015, Robinson had assets and investments amounting to more than $150 million. That reflects an increase in his assets and investments from approximately $126 million in 2014. He said that the proceeds of 2 properties sold in Long Mountain and in Florida were invested in cash and bond holdings held by himself and his father. He argued that the leak by those in the PNP to the media about his plans to buy the Jacksonville property did not come as a surprise, as he already had told his wife that when they were seeking to find a house, that this information could end up in the public domain. Listen to this note, Anna. I don't have anything to hide. I have dealt with my personal life above board. If somebody is going to make an issue, which is in my view called on my integrity, then I'm going to be upfront and open about what my income and assets are. He says that he is in a position to acquire the Jacksonville property on his own based on his assets and investments. The man have $150 million in assets and investments. Clearly, he can buy a house for 70 plus million, he said. And that here's what he shared as well, that his wife, Mariam McIntosh Robinson, president of First Global, worked in venture capital and private equity in the US for about 10 years. And he says, quote, listen to this. She did not give me authority to talk about her salary, but her average salary over the period on an annual basis has easily been more than $250,000 to US $300,000 per annum. Julian Robinson told us what his wife earned in 2016 when trying to head off the claims that he wasn't in a position to buy the Jacksonville property. He said, quote, she's in an industry where she earns significantly more than I. Here's the kicker now. He says, there is a low trust factor in Jamaica in relation to how politicians are perceived. And he says he supports the suggestion that all parliamentarians should make their integrity reports available for public scrutiny. In other words, tell the public about your money. be upfront about that. So the question then is, if Mr. Robinson believes that politicians should tell the public about their money, why not their citizenship? If you believe that all this information you shared in 2016 because you wanted to satisfy those who were speculating about your ability to buy a house, and you gave us your wife's salary, you told us the investments you had with your father, all personal details, why not the fact that I have dual British Jamaican citizenship? And here's the last part now, Turner, on the part of law and principle. He said, quote, I have not broken any law. So if this helps to restore public confidence, then yes, I think publishing information like this should be done. So telling us that you are dual British Jamaican national is not breaking any law. Well, the fact that you're British Jamaican national is not breaking any law. Telling us assists us with knowing where we are, where our politicians are concerned. And I'm saying, Julian, if you could have given us all of these things, your wife is a private individual, an honorable woman. You told us how much she earned. You tell us how much in your bank account. You show the gleaner all of what your father and yourself hold. Everything. If you can share that publicly, why wouldn't you say that you're a dual citizen? What's so special about that? Why not that for hide? Why is that something now that we are questioning now? Well, so why Julian can't level with we? The honorable, upfront, honest Julian Robinson. What about the dual citizenship? So hard for you to tell we.